When I was a kid, one of my favorite television programs was The Muppet Show. Every night before I had to go to bed, I would tune into this show. I was always excited to see Kermit and Miss Piggy, since they were my favorite Muppets. Right after dinner one night, I tuned in to see the Muppets that would always bring a smile to my face. The show started strangely this time, though. Kermit showed up, but before he could introduce the special guest star of that episode, it all turned silent. Instead of the normal happy singing, there wasn't any sound at all. The camera faded into a black and white doorway, and as the camera inched closer and closer, I began to hear small bits of white noise. It then cut to a scene of Kermit standing in front of the standard red theater curtains. Several things were out of place. Kermit's head seemed warped and longer than usual. The colors he was composed of were now different and darker. The bricks were also covered with a very bright substance, which seemed to be curiously spattered about the wall. Kermit didn't say anything. Instead, he just stared blankly at the camera, barely moving. I'm not sure how long this scene lasted, but it seemed to go on for a while. Finally, the scene transitioned to a very dimly lit room that seemed to be someone's attic. It looked like it wasn't even part of the Muppet Theater. The film was in black and white, as if you were watching an old show and such. The only source of light came from behind some boxes in the back. The room was dirty, and random objects were scattered across the floor. The one object I did notice was a dirty old projector toppled over in the middle of the room. I stared at it for a bit until something suddenly moved behind it. What I saw will haunt me for the rest of my life. An overstretched, limbless, and filthy Kermit puppet was being slowly dragged across the floor by an unseen string. It looked lifeless until the head began to crane towards the camera. No one was puppeteering it. It took ages for the poor frog's gaze to finally reach me, but when it did, the program cut to static. I just sat there in silence, frozen by fright, and staring at the TV. To this day, I don't have a clue to what had happened that night. The Muppet Show will be a favorite of mine. It always will be. But it will never be the same because of that fateful night.